Over the weekend, rumors were burning up social media that would reportedly lead to the resignation of Mayor Lori Lightfoot. The mayor responded to those rumors on Twitter and at a news conference yesterday. Take a look.
Certainly it's disappointing. That's something that's so salacious and false and goes against everything that and who I am, that some of you took seriously and were trying to chase down sourcing for. But I'll just share my exchange with my 13-year-old. We were explaining to her and felt I need to explain to her because some of you put her in your mouths. She said, "Why are people so stupid and mean?"
And here to talk about how rumors spread on social media and how journalists should cover them are Peter Adams, the Senior Vice President of Education at the News Literacy Project. That's a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that teaches students how to know what to believe in the digital age. And Charles Whitaker, Dean of Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism. Welcome, both of you, gentlemen. Peter, this is what you do at the News Literacy Project, try to teach people how to fact check and trust what they see. When you see something like this, so many people believe these rumors simply because they were spread far and wide on social media. So how do you go about combating it when it spreads so fast like that?
Indeed, I think the first step is to actually just slow down and to be aware of your emotions. So I think this spread very quickly, especially among the mayor's critics, who maybe leaned into that information, engaged in a little confirmation bias, and didn't really scrutinize or question the source of the information or take a look at the evidence. So if we just slow down, try to figure out where the information is coming from, and don't fall for things like screenshots of anonymous social media posts, we'll all be a lot better off.
And confirmation bias comes into play so often on so many issues as people seek out information. Charles Whitaker, as a journalist, clearly you are a little bit curious as to whether there's some truth to this. So how does a journalist go about trying to dig into this without amplifying baseless misinformation on social media?
I think we track it down the same way we would if we were reporting on any other story. I think Peter's absolutely right. We have to slow things down. We have to apply the same standards of verification and accuracy that we do to traditional media. But too often, people treat social media as though it's not journalism. When you're working as a journalist and you are repeating rumor, that's journalistic malpractice. You actually should be applying the same standards that you do in your normal beat coverage.
And Peter, there's been a lot written about the case of Adam Toledo here in Chicago, and perhaps journalists going with the Chicago Police Department's initial explanation of what happened when you see the video and it was different from what they said. How about that? How do journalists handle a situation like that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of thoughtful conversations happening now in newsrooms and a much needed sort of revisiting of practices around how official statements are reported. I think in the initial coverage of the shooting, we saw a lot of amplification of official statements. What we know now to be a false statement that Toledo had a gun was just amplified in a headline. And I think even if it's attributed to officials, even if it's attributed to police, it lends it credence. And so I think news organizations need to continue this work of being more thoughtful and more skeptical about the initial information released by police. We're seeing that today in the wake of the Derek Chauvin verdict. People revisiting the initial statements about George Floyd's death.
Indeed, the initial statements from the Minneapolis PD about that were vastly different from what actually happened. So Charles Whitaker, what should newsrooms do when the police or public officials put out a statement and there's this track record here of perhaps not comporting with the truth?
I think, as Peter said, we can't take the quote official version of events as the accurate version of events, and we have to reserve judgment. It's not just enough to say that it was the official version of the events. I think we have to, as best we can, attempt to verify, wait for video coverage, and that's anathema to what we think we should do. But we can't sacrifice expedience and being the first ones to the story for accuracy. And then when we're wrong, we've actually got to own up to that and sort of say where those mistakes occurred and how they occurred.
And Peter Adams, it's no secret right now that social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube are super spreaders of misinformation, and so much of the public is confused about what is truth, what is credible journalism, what are memes, what are hot takes. Simply put, can social media companies do more than they're doing? Do they have the capacity to do more to root out misinformation?
Absolutely, they have more capacity. I think they can, they can do a number of things. They have, substantial, astronomical resources in some cases to devote to this, and aren't doing enough there. But they're also not opening their platforms up enough for researchers, opening up their API and their data to researchers who are trying to figure out how disinformation agents and bad actors work online, how they network online. And then finally, I think, they can go further. I think there are some steps in the right direction in terms of regarding public figures differently than private citizens. And I think that we should see a difference in the community standards to which people are held. People with large followings, influencers on platforms, should be held to a higher standard when it comes to the accuracy of content, and the consequences for them spreading harmful information should be more severe than an average user.
And Charles Whitaker, sometimes the harmful information or personalities spreading stuff in bad faith gets more clicks, it builds their brand, and sometimes it's hard for actual journalism to compete with that. So how does journalism win over the hearts and minds of folks that want salacious information?
Well, I think we can't succumb to the desire for clicks, falling into the trap of just producing salacious information for clickbait will be the death of media. That's what contributes to the lack of trust that we are experiencing now. We have to hold ourselves to higher standards. I know it's a competitive environment, and we are all, searching for eyeballs, but if the public doesn't trust us, if they come to believe that that we are no better than the fake news propagators, then that too will be the death of journalism.
And a lot of times, a lot of the public just can't tell the difference, which I know both of you care about this issue very much. And so do we. We want to keep talking about this down the road. But for now, our thanks to Peter Adams and Charles Whitaker.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.